Right. It is 7 o'clock. Who's out there? Do my normal thing. Hang on. Let me go here. Do this every week. As y'all see, I have a guest with me tonight. So hang on. WHO out there. Thursday night, folks. We're here. How's everybody doing? I see people coming in. That's a beautiful thing. And y'all see I have a guest. I ain't gonna say, well, it's gonna say because her name is right there. You see that already as it is. So I want to tell you her name. You already know it. But if you're out there, let me know. I see people laying in the cut. I told y'all, don't lay in the cut. Let me know if you can hear me, if the music's too loud, because you know I love to play my music loud. And it's just a Dave Night thing. And we're on Zoom tonight. Let's see out this Zoom. Yeah, stop. Well, that's out the way as possible. All right. So who's there? We got some people there. We're gonna have a really, really cool show tonight. I want you guys to come in, get comfortable, get a pencil and paper and a pad. And I have Christina Wakefield here tonight. She's joining me. And we're going to talk a heck of a whole lot about sleep. Getting some sleep. Parsley, how you doing, man? Good evening to you, buddy. How you been? Glad you're here. Hey, Rhea, how you doing? Glad you're here as well. You guys see Chris is here, so we're going to talk to her. We're going to talk about sleep because I don't get enough of it. And it's going to kind of help us just kind of understand what's going on with sleep in the body. First of all, can y'all hear me okay, or do I have Fantasy World blasting? If I have it blasting, let me know because I'll bring it down. Chris had me bring it down when we were doing some tests behind, but I felt a little bit too low. I brought it up a little bit higher, and I hope it's not kind of blasting away. But let me know who else is out there. Give me a shout. Let me know. Maybe some people will come through. We're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to talk about going to bed, getting more sleep. You know, sleep, how sleep affects the body, what things, how stress also impacts our sleep as well. Great, boy. So you hearing everything okay? That's good. Rhea, want to give you a heads up. Your T-shirt has been shipped. It's in the mail. You're gonna get a David Knight Composed T-shirt with the DK Composed logo on the side over there. You know, that's gonna be kind of cool. Mike's went out as well. Mike is not here yet. Hopefully he's gonna come in. Marcy, hers went out too. So hopefully they'll all come in and all be kind of good. All right, but wow, how you doing, Chris?
I'm doing amazing. Happy to be here, David.
I'm really glad that you're here as well. We have some really, as you know, we have some really cool things in store for everybody who's going to come in to listen to this tonight. We're going to talk, and we're going to get kind of deep into sleep and everything and what it's all about. I'm really, really happy and excited that you're here. And for all those folks, they don't know, but we almost couldn't do this because we had so many issues going on, and they haven't been resolved. As they can see, we came in through Zoom tonight, and I don't want me coming through Zoom, but you have the nice, which is making me mad, as you know, the nice big Zoom logo there. But hey, it is what it is. And let me bring the music down so we can get started. And yes, I know, Rhea, it was already locked. Long story, I'll tell you about that later. Let me bring the music down right quick. All right. So we can kind of jump in. Other folks start coming in as we rock and roll from there, right? So how's everybody doing out there? Hope everybody's doing pretty good. It is Thursday night. It's 7 o'clock. And we have like a really good night tonight. I have Christina Wakefield coming in, and she is my coach, my health coach. And she has been working with me with all of my acid reflux and all of my stuff that goes on. And we've been working for almost a year. It'll be a year, I think, next month, Chris, that we've been kind of working together. And it's been really good, even though I have not been a good boy. I have not been on top of everything I need to be doing, but my gut, my health, my acid reflux has gotten much better. Even they hear it. My sister made a mention of it. We were on the phone last week, Friday. My sister goes, wow, you sound really good, because she was able to hear the hoarseness and the raspiness in my throat. prior to you and I working, and also my doctor Mary and us working together to get my acid reflux going. You know, um, but I want to welcome you here, and I want to thank you for coming in. Um, I really appreciate you doing this with me because, as many of my fans know, that I'm into music. I love music. I love writing and producing music, but it's also for me about lifestyle. It's also about culture, and so I like to bring my music into lifestyle and health and wellness and all those types of things as well. And one of my goals is, as I move forward with my music career and writing songs and doing songs and producing music, is to bring people like yourself and other folks like Parsley into the mix, so that um, the folks and the fans that follow me and my music will also get more than just music. And my belief is that music is very therapeutic. Music is very
Absolutely.
healing. You know that, I know that. It's very healthy, very healing, therapeutic, all that kind of good stuff. But at the same time, I know for me, and I would say many people, we find that it takes one thing doesn't solve our health issues. Um, as I recently learned, with my acid reflux and my panic attacks, I have to work with my brain and how I'm thinking and my emotions and stuff, along with healing my gut as well. And the fact that because of your help and how you've been working with me, and also Mary, my doctor with Parsley Health, and how she's been working with me, my gut has healed so much better than what it was last year. So I feel a difference. And you have to kind of do the work, and I was doing the work, but I fell off, which we all do. And as you point out to me behind the scene, Dave, that's why I'm here. And I was explaining to her that, hey, I know, but one of my biggest issues is, like I was telling you before, I don't reach out. I'm always type of that lone person that just has to go it alone, and that's not good. But moving forward, I promise I'm going to be more in the loop, reaching out to you and Mary as well to get stuff going. But I'm glad you're here. And what we want to talk about, um, we went through a bunch of stuff. So all you guys and girls out there know, we went through a bunch of topics. And I felt that the topic that would be a really good help for us to discuss tonight would be sleeping. Go to bed. Take your butt to bed. Get some rest. Get your 8 hours, preferably. And because I find that, I guess the more I began to learn and study and read about the body, I began to realize that sleep is really important. It's very imperative. Um, but I want to, before I get too deep into that, what I want to do is I want to just kind of, and I put it out there to everybody in emails and stuff, but I also just want to read it, let everybody know. I want people to know, a little bit about your history, your background, your expertise, and what you do. All right, so I'm just going to read a little snippet of your bio here. So it says, Christina Wakefield is a certified holistic health coach through the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. I love that school. And has completed extensive training through the School of Applied Functional Medicine. She earned her Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from the University of Colorado in Boulder, where she graduated summa cum laude, top 1%. And her clinical expertise is gastrointestinal health, hormone health, stress and sleep optimization, anxiety, and depression. Now, I'm gonna say this. Um, I switched doctors because when I first went to Parsley, I realized that some of the doctors I may have chosen initially, while they're all beautiful people, I wanted to get doctors who could zero in more on what was going on with me. And I find that when you're dealing with holistic health and holistic healing and stuff like that, it's really important to find someone who specializes in what ails you, as my grandmother would say, as to what ails you, right? Um, and so when I began looking through all the doctors, I chose you because of your expertise in gastrointestinal health, as well as stress and sleep and anxiety. Because, as they all know, my panic attacks and my anxiety has been driving me nuts, to say the least, right? So we want to talk about sleep. And so I just want to ask you a few questions about sleep and what are some of the things that we can do, and also keeping in mind, which I want to come back to this, most of the people from my generation who may be about my age, a little bit older, we all come from that television era, right? The era where TV was just getting into everybody's living rooms, like in the 1950s. So by the time I was born in 1962, more and more people had TVs. And by the time myself and my siblings got to be like ages 9, 10, 11 years old, we're in the early 70s now, and straight up until maybe 2003, for me at least, we went to bed with our televisions on, most of us, you know. We go to bed with our TVs on quite often. And I see my wife, hey Maggie, my wife is here. Hi, she said, what? She said, sleep, what's that? She's really bad with, I won't get into my wife, man, but like she said, sleep, what's that? Uh, it's really difficult for her. But we're gonna get into this stuff. So many of us from that generation, we slept with televisions on. Even me with my children, my three oldest children, they're in their 30s now, late 20s. We go to bed, and they to this day they go to bed the TV. I'm like, guys, turn your television off when you go to bed at night. Um, so I want to get more into this with you, and because everybody knows I will run my mouth, and you won't get one word in, and it'll be 8 o'clock, and I'll be like, good night, everybody. Chris was great, right? so, um, so I guess the first question I really want to ask you: how do you feel stress impacts our sleep?
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, David. I'm so excited to be here. And, as you were saying before, combining lifestyle and health, everything is interconnected.
Yes.
And, at Parsley, where I work, we really look at how your day-to-day nutrition and lifestyle choices are driving how you feel, right? 99% of your health happens outside of your, outside of the doctor's office.
Right.
And there's so much we can do through nutrition, through lifestyle, to help people heal from chronic conditions that you've been experiencing, such as yourself. So 80% of our members have seen their chronic conditions resolve within the first year of working with us. So thank you for inviting me on the show, and I'm so excited to share more about sleep today. My goal is to get everyone sleeping at least 7 hours of sleep per night, and hopefully I can convince you of that during this show. So when I'm working with clients, often the first question I'll ask them is, how is your sleep? And if you're to look at your health as a house, sleep is the foundation. Everything really depends on sleep. If you don't get a good night's sleep, you're going to be much less likely to make healthy nutritional choices, less likely to exercise, you're more likely to snap at your partner. It really does have such a huge downstream impact on quite literally every single physiological system and mechanism of the brain. If you are getting quality sleep, you're going to enhance really every system in your body. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to do you could do some considerable harm to most of your body. So when we're looking at specifically stress, how does stress impact sleep? When we're looking at people who are having, problems with insomnia or falling asleep, often stress is one of the biggest underlying causes of that. And so when we're looking at people who have sleep issues, oftentimes there are stress management issues at play as well. So they're very interconnected a lot of the times. And when we look at what happens to the body when we're feeling stressed, what happens is our sympathetic nervous system is activated. So our sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight response.
Right.
So this was a very smart evolutionary mechanism that was designed for if we're getting chased by a tiger, our body is going to release cortisol and adrenaline so that we can run faster. It's going to, make our heart beat faster. It's going to make us more, vigilant.
Right.
But
it also shuts down the digestive system.
Yeah, so in that time, your body's like, hey, the only thing I really care about is surviving. I need to get away from this tiger.
Exactly.
I don't care about digesting your food.
Right,
I don't care about having sex. So a lot of
Right.
times, like your reproductive, hormones will be affected, libido will be non-existent.
I didn't know that.
And so, as it, relates to sleep, if you think about it, so your metabolic rate is triggered to be faster. So this is going to increase your core body temperature. When you're trying to go to sleep, it's essential that your core body temperature drops. So it needs to cool down by a few degrees. So that's one way. It's just making you quite literally hotter. Mm-hmm. You're going to have higher levels of cortisol and adrenaline. So again, this is going to make your heart beat faster. It's going to be harder to slow down and relax and to calm your body down. Your brain activity changes. So your brain is on hyper alert. It's looking out for threats. It's going to be more so thinking about potential, bad things that are going to happen. You're going to worry more.
I experience that all the time, every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
And oftentimes when we're stressed and if we're like going, especially in a culture that almost like rewards not sleeping as much to like get more done.
Get more done. Let's go. That's the American way. Go. Non-stop. And then we're all dead at 35. Exaggerating, of course, but.
Yeah. So a lot of the times the first moment that somebody will even attempt to slow down their brain or be still is when they're trying to go to sleep. And if there hasn't been anything done to help relieve stress throughout the day, that could be the first time when all these worries and thoughts are popping up and the brain is, or the body is just still so stimulated that it's really hard to just, sink down into a restful, restorative sleep. So, it's when we're thinking about how do we manage stress, I like to think of stress management, daily stress management, as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth. So trying to figure out, okay, what is something that I can do on a daily basis that is going to help activate my parasympathetic nervous system. So the parasympathetic nervous system is on the other end of the sympathetic nervous system. This is the nervous system that regulates your digestion and your reproduction and signals to the brain, hey, everything is chill. I'm not getting chased by a tiger. And the more you can learn to activate this parasympathetic nervous system, the less your body is going to be turned on the on switch in the sympathetic nervous system, and the easier you'll have the ability to calm yourself down, to initiate deeper sleep. So things like meditation and breath work and going for walks, yoga, listening to music, find the thing that works for you because it's different for everyone. And you can think of it as like in modern day life, as humans, nobody is immune to stress, especially, the past couple of years have been, we've just had to surrender to what's been going on in the world. So unfortunately, we can't say we're just going to eliminate all the stress in our lives. We can do what we can, but a lot of the times things are out of our control. So what is in our control is how we manage the stress. How do we build our resilience to stress so that it doesn't impact our sleep, so that it doesn't cause, more panic attacks. And, if you think about it, like every day that you're exposed to stress, it's kind of like a balloon is getting filled up every day. And when you do stress management practices, it's like poking a hole in that balloon so that it doesn't explode.
Mm-hmm.
So, when I'm working with clients, I really emphasize, okay, if your sleep is an issue, let's make sure your stress is under control. You're managing stress on a daily basis, especially the hour before you go to bed at night. Let's make sure we're doing calming activities, helping to activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Even if you're exhausted and you pass out, if your mind is still, hyperactive, your body's going to have a harder time to fully sink down into that restorative sleep. So a lot of times when people are light sleepers and they're like, oh, I always wake up at any small noise, or if my partner gets up to pee in the middle of the night, I always wake up. That's a clue, that's a sign that you might not be in as deep of a sleep as you could be, because your body's like on hyper alert, still kind of looking out.
Now, that was me most of my life. Most of my life, it was like a pin drop, I was up, and
Yeah.
But that stopped. Now,
Okay.
as stressed as I am, I hit the bed, I'm out. It used to be my wife would walk in the room, I would hear her come in, I'd hear the door open, I'd hear her walk, I'd hear the floor creak, I'd hear something. I'd wake up, okay, fine. I go, it's my wife, I go back to bed, right? Now she walks in and a bomb can blow up and Dave doesn't hear nothing, But what's interesting with that is, as stressed out, and I keep saying this to myself, as stressed out as I am, I'm surprised that I pretty much sleep through the night.
Good.
And I think that's probably because in my scenario, I think I've just probably learned how to let crap go as much as I can, because certainly when you and I first talked last year, when we first met last year, that wasn't the case. That I was still waking up and all that kind of stuff, but I think I just kind of let some things go over time, which is good. But I still, I'm not out the woods. I'm not even close to being out the woods. I still have my issues. Though I will say, recently, I've been, and I'm glad you said it, because I've been doing a lot more meditation, a lot more deep relaxation than what I had been. I kind of got back on the horse over the last 3 or 4 weeks now. And like you said, it kind of pokes holes in the things. And I see the difference, and I think people need to really understand how serious stress really is, that the body goes through a process at night while you're sleeping. And I don't want to get into all the science, all the crazy stuff with it, but I think as a whole is to understand that the body goes through, they say, rejuvenation. And I think that's not the way to explain it. That the body is literally, when you go to sleep at night, the body's turning on certain things, cleaning out certain things. At this hour, it'll clean the kidney. At this hour, it'll clean reproductive. At this hour, it'll clean the liver. At this hour, it'll work with the heart. At this hour, it'll work with the brain, and it'll go through all these phases like clockwork, okay, when you're asleep at night. And so if you're not getting enough sleep, if the body is supposed to clean, hypothetically, the brain at 1 a.m. and you're not sleeping at 1 a.m., brain doesn't get clean that night. And you have to now just begin to imagine, if that's happening enough times over time, what effect is that now having on the brain? Or if it's cleaning out the liver at a certain point at night and it flushes through at a certain point at night, and you're not sleeping and your body is not resting, at that point, the liver is now not being cleaned out, and so I think everybody needs to really just understand that if you're not sleeping, if you go into bed with televisions on and cell phones and all that kind of stuff, which we're going to get into a little bit later, that just needs to stop. Let's see, that's Rhea saying that's related to the circadian clock, something that isn't widely taught. You're right, the circadian clock, right, which is the clock that connects us to time, I guess, of the world and of the universe. and our bodies are connected to that bad boy. This, hey, clock goes there, you need to be there. She was,
Yeah. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something? Yeah, so what you're saying is the body is incredibly active while
yeah,
we're sleeping. There's almost this notion that it's when the body is resting, but it's actually not.
right.
When you look at the difference in caloric expenditure, we only conserve 140 calories while we're sleeping.
Wow.
And if you look at the, even if you look at brain scans of the brain during rapid eye movement sleep versus someone who's completely awake, you can't even tell the difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so much that's going on.
So, whoa, really?
Yeah,
I'm just realizing what you said. So a sleeping brain is as active as a awake brain.
yeah, and in some parts even 30% more active when you're in the rapid eye movement stage. So the only way you could really tell a difference is by looking to tell if somebody is asleep or awake is by looking at their eye movements, moving under the eye. So yeah, it's quite incredible. And what you're saying about the cleansing that goes on in the brain while you're sleeping, when we're looking at cognitive health, your brain flushes out these kind of dangerous byproducts that are made from the activity of our neurons throughout the day. So when we're sleeping, all these proteins are kind of flushed out of the brain, and there's one particular protein that's related to Alzheimer's disease. And a Harvard study showed that people who are 65 years and older who slept less than 5 hours a night were 2 times as likely to develop dementia and Alzheimer's than those who are sleeping 6 to 8 hours. And they attributed it largely to this buildup of this protein that isn't able to get flushed when you're not sleeping for that process to take place. So it's, what you're saying, like, every morning we wake up and the body has been extremely active, kind of repairing and restoring all these different processes, and we need to be asleep for that to happen.
Right. What I find is amazing is that it's so active at night, our bodies as a whole, so active at night when we're sleeping, but yet if we get a good night's sleep, we wake up and we feel refreshed, we feel good.
Yeah.
And I can only attribute that to the fact that it did its job.
Yeah.
So all of the crud from the day before is gone, it's out. And I guess we get up in the morning and we go pee and do our business. It just flushes out.
So there's this thing called adenosine. It's a neurotransmitter, and it basically builds up the longer we're awake to create sleep pressure. So basically, the longer we're awake, the more this adenosine builds up in our body. So that by the time, it's at the end of the day and it's at the night, we have this big buildup of adenosine to make us tired in accordance with the circadian clock as well. The two are kind of working in tandem to regulate our wakefulness and how tired we are. And so when we sleep, when we go to bed at night, it basically clears out the adenosine so that we wake up feeling refreshed, we have that energy, and then the cycle starts again. So this is where, if you go many nights where you're not getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep, that adenosine is still kind of building up in your body. And this is where caffeine actually works. So caffeine and adenosine look very similar from a molecular level to the body. So when they compete for the same receptors. So when you drink caffeine, it basically kind of disguises the feeling of adenosine. So you can kind of get away with not feeling that sleep pressure. But then that's where the caffeine crash happens. Once the caffeine wears off, then you feel that buildup of the sleep pressure. And so you either keep drinking more caffeine to kind of ignore that sleep pressure, or you really experience that crash.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know about that. I didn't know that that buildup happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's whoa. Okay, I didn't know that. Um, that's really dangerous. And I mean, I work at the Citibank, you know, and a lot of people that are there. When I first go in the morning, and I'm usually one of the first people on the site, and coffee pots are chugging away. And I'm just like, wow, man. And they're just, I'll be fine when I get my cup. I'll be fine when I get my cup. And this is not to bash. This is not bashing coffee drinkers, because truth be told, I love coffee. My grandfather turned me on to coffee when I was like 6, 7 years old. He would come home from work at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was always up. You
I
up, good
love
buddy?
coffee too.
I love it. And he'd walk in the room. Are you up, good buddy? Yeah, I'm up. You want a cup of coffee? Yeah, come on. We go into the kitchen. He'd make his Maxwell House coffee and put it in the cup. A lot of sugar, a lot of cream, nice and light. And we would sit there drinking coffee. And I loved it. But I don't drink it because I understood when I got older, I understood that it wasn't good in terms of the caffeine. And then I was diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse when I was 22 years old. Yeah, 22 years old. And I wasn't drinking it then, but then once I heard about the mitral valve prolapse, which I've healed since then, um, uh, I just don't drink coffee. I just don't. And again, not bashing coffee drinkers. We're just bringing the information so that you understand what's happening. I found that when I changed my lifestyle in 2006, I didn't know the damage I was doing to myself, you know, eating the way I did, which primarily was an African American lifestyle because that's how I grew up. So for me it was grits and bacon and eggs with cheese and butter and all that good southern food that my grandmother used to make. And when I became an adult, I did the same thing, because it's good eating, as my grandfather would say, right? Um, but when I got into my mid 40s, like 44, 45 years old, I started feeling like, what's going on? And I began reading and studying and researching, learning about the body, learning about the organs in the body and what they do. And when you begin to study the organs in the body and what those organs do in the body and their purpose in the body, then you're like, oh crap.
Mm-hmm.
I need to, first of all, it's amazing when you read about those things, about what the body, how it's made up, just down to the cellular, just a cell, just study a cell is unbelievable, right? But when you start studying everything else and how it works and what it does in the body, and then how food affects those different major organs in the body, I just sat back and said, okay, this is real deep. It's time to make a change. And so all I'm saying to all of you folks out there is like, hey, this is not about bashing people if you're not getting enough sleep. It's not about bashing people if you're not drinking coffee, whatever. This is just bringing you the information, and then you make your decision, you make your choices, based upon yourself. And that's all we can do. But one of my goals as David Knight and a musician and doing my lifestyle thing is to bring the information. That's about it.
And coffee can have some amazing benefits. It's full of antioxidants, it can help with, mental clarity. I would just say if someone out there who's watching, you have an issue with sleep and you drink a lot of caffeine, it's more about the timing. So caffeine has a half-life of about 5 to 6 hours. So you just want to basically take your typical bedtime and cut back 8 to 10 hours. And that's when ideally you should try to drink your last cup of coffee so that it doesn't impact your sleep. So that it doesn't.
8 to 10 hours before going to bed when you should have your last cup of coffee. So,
exactly.
Okay. Well, that's about, I drink those cups in the morning. unless,
Yeah.
unless you're going to be up late at night, but then after you're going to be up late at night, then that becomes another issue because now you're not getting enough sleep.
Right.
Life just hasn't all worked out. It's either you stay within the laws of what life sets up, you step out those laws and you got issues, and
You do the best you can.
Right, you do. Because there's no perfection. Though I try for perfection, I'm just
And what do I always tell you, David? We are aiming for progress, not perfection.
right.
Baby steps are what we aim for.
No, true. Now you always tell me that. So let's see. Maggie, my wife, she asked, "Does decaf have some health benefits? Does caffeine coffee have any kind of health benefits?"
Yeah, decaf would still have the antioxidants, from the bean.
Hmm.
Keep in mind that decaf still does have caffeine in it. It's going to have much less, but if you're someone who's super sensitive to caffeine, just know that there actually is still caffeine in decaffeinated coffee, which a
Right.
lot of people don't always realize.
So no, my question for you, Chris, is the caffeine in the bean, or are the manufacturers putting caffeine in the bean in the coffee? Do we know?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah,
I
'cause I don't know.
I don't know either, but I'm curious
Yeah,
about that. So
yeah,
I'll
me
look into
too.
that and
Yeah,
get
I
back to
think
you
I
about
think we
that.
should, because that's what if it
I
matters.
would I would think that it comes from the bean,
I would think
right?
so too. It sounds like it would come from the bean, but
Yeah.
folks, as you know, they're putting so much junk in the food now. Well, they've always done that, but now we know that I just think it's a valid question for us to look up, and we'll find out.
Yeah.
Who's putting caffeine in the coffee? Is it the manufacturer or is it nature? One of y'all are doing it. We're
I
gonna
would
find
have
out.
to. I'm really gonna guess that it's in the bean. But now I'm curious, how does decaffeinated coffee work?
Right.
so,
Right. So
I'm,
maybe they're pasteurizing it in some way and pulling it out to make less caffeine. I'm
yeah,
just throwing stuff up against the wall to see
yeah.
if anything
I'll
makes
go
sense.
down that rabbit hole after this podcast then.
Right? Okay, that's perfect. Maggie said thanks, and Ria said I agree that attention has to be paid to the time if consumption, time of consumption. I guess caffeine works as a vasodilator. What? Vasodilator.
Vasodilator.
Thank you, because I couldn't pronounce that to save my life because I'm B. Okay, so what's that? I don't know what that is. Do you know?
So basically, it's like pumping the blood, expanding your vessels. So caffeine is known to increase your heart rate, increase your blood pressure. Um, so that's often why sometimes caffeine will cause anxiety in some people.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm not sure what the question was, but yeah, it definitely can act like that.
Okay. So Ria said she just checked and she said it's from the bean.
Okay, thanks,
She said
Rita.
from the bean. Okay. We thought so, just wasn't sure. Thanks, Ria. And Moisey says, what makes it decaffeinated? Ria, can you look that up? Let's see what makes it decaffeinated. We find out.
Dying to know now.
Yeah, what makes it decaffeinated? I'm very curious at this point because, we need to know some of these things. I think it makes a lot of sense. Um, there was something else. No, no. I know the few times that I drink coffee when I was in my 20s, and my mitral valve prolapse, I had it from birth for most of my life. And it hit me really big one day after doing a concert on stage. We were playing and performing, and I was grooving that night. It was great. But I came off stage, and my heart, everything was kind of going and going and going. But I noticed that whenever I drank coffee, which was very rare back in those days, I was more of a hot chocolate person. Whenever I drank hot chocolate or coffee, it would get my heart going and mess with my heart because of the mitral valve prolapse. Um, I cured the mitral valve prolapse, I guess, about 6, 7 years ago. So that's not an issue for me anymore. So whenever I do, a few times I might do coffee, which has been really rare, or hot chocolate, which I do more of that, it doesn't bother me anymore. Um, and for those who don't know, in terms of my mitral valve prolapse, I did reverse that naturally. I didn't do any kind of surgeries and drugs and stuff like that. I did it naturally, and that was a lot of work. That's one of the reasons why I'm so tired now, Chris. 'Cause I'm like, I'm tired of doing this stuff. Just give me a break. um, okay, so I'm gonna ask Chris another question. But while we're talking about this next topic, If you folks have any questions, put them in the comments, please, and let us know because once we get to this topic, I'll begin to ask Chris more questions, and we'll try to get some answers for what you guys may ask about this as well. All right, so let's.
Yeah, and I did want to add one thing while we're on the topic of the heart. So when you go to sleep at night, that's almost like a natural blood pressure medication because the way sleep is acting on the cardiovascular system is it's basically sending like calming messages to the sympathetic nervous system to help decrease your heart rate, to help decrease your blood pressure, to basically allow that rest for your heart. And you know, adults 45 years and older who sleep fewer than 6 hours a night are 200% more likely to have a heart attack, some studies show. So can't overestimate the importance of sleep on cardiovascular health specifically.
All right, well, whoa. Let me go there now because now I'm thinking about my wife. Okay, so not getting enough sleep, could that in some way maybe even trigger hypertension?
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
So deficient sleep, so getting less than 7 hours ideally, it causes an overactive sympathetic nervous system. So when we're talking about the fight or flight nervous system, when we're feeling stressed, by not getting enough sleep, it can have that same impact on the body, as if you were being chased by a tiger.
Right.
So during that deep non-REM sleep, that brain communicates a really calming signal to help de-escalate that impact. So it's definitely one of the best things you can do to avert hypertension and potential stroke and heart attack is getting enough hours of sleep. An interesting thing that I recently learned is daylight savings in the northern hemisphere. You know, when we switch and it results in losing 1 hour of sleep. Records show that there is a frightening spike in heart attacks the following day from that difference of 1 hour. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, if there's any sort of like cardiovascular issues going on, really aiming for 7 hours of sleep per night is really like the best medication you can take.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not a doctor, so I want to be careful too with giving out medical advice, but this is just based on research that I've seen.
I think at some point I'm going to grab Mary and maybe both at the same time and just have so that we can get the health coach side of it and the doctor side of it as well, and we can trade off. So I haven't reached out to her yet, but I plan to on my next round I was telling you about. So my wife says, "Okay, I'm going to sleep now, nighty night." Yeah, my wife's sleep has been horrible since we met, and it's at one point if she was averaging 3 to 4 hours per night, it was a lot. That was years. She's now getting herself where I'd be like, I'm going to bed. All right, I'll be in there with you. I'm like, okay, another 4 a.m. one here, and it's just. She's working with it now, which I'm really, really happy about. She's working with it now, so she goes to bed. She doesn't even mess with it anymore. So Moisey, he says,
and she's not alone. A lot of people are in that boat. Again, going back to the culture of there's, a lot to do and to get done, and I think there hasn't been a ton of. I feel like it's just almost recent where it's. The research on what actually happens during sleep is becoming more prevalent. Sleep has baffled, researchers for years. Like, why should we sleep? So I love that, you're having this podcast. So hopefully we can, continue to educate people on why it is so important. And a book that I would recommend for your listeners that has been so integral in my knowledge about sleep is a book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker.
Okay.
And I would highly recommend that to anyone who wants to learn more.
Okay. Yes. Why We Sleep. There's going to be of course, you folks know there's going to be a show notes page. So, Why We Sleep. I'll put that up there. Speaking about the show notes page, if I don't get to it tonight, it'll be up tomorrow. There's going to be a replay on this. So all those who are on my email list, you'll get the replay email about this tomorrow, but also the show notes page will be published as well tomorrow. And on that show notes page, there are two things. One, both from Parsley Health, which is a company, medical system, I'm so tired, forgive me, that Chris works for, and where I go, I'm a member, okay? There is a sleep guide, a health sleep guide that's going to be there, a PDF that you can download from there. And also there is a $150, I guess, discount if you become a Parsley member, okay? You have to use the last name Knight. They have to use the code, it's not last name, the code Knight, K-N-I-G-H-T, right? As Chris said, I've arrived. I never thought that my last name would be a code. Ha, who'd have thought? But that'll be on the show notes page. I'll send out an email for those who are on my email list, and I will also post it on Facebook as well as soon as those things are available. Maybe later tonight, but probably most likely tomorrow. But either way, I'll put it out. All right. And Mosi says, so more than 6 hours a night, sleeping that is the goal of those over 40 years of age.
Yes, 7 to 9 is the recommendation.
Okay. Okay. Now, we all have to get sleep. We all need sleep. We all need, I average between 7 and 8. I go to bed anywhere between 8:30 and 9:30, damn near every night, including weekends, which drove my wife nuts. I'm like, I don't care. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. And most people but Dave, you're a musician. Musicians are up all night. Not this one. Even when I was younger, when I was in my teens and 20s, I'd go out and do a gig, and the gig was over, let's say about 11, 12 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. I'd pack up my guitar, my amplifier, throw it in the car, drive back home, go to bed, and you wouldn't see me until like the next day or the next gig. I don't play with that. I just go to sleep, And I'm not a big fan of sleeping. I just go to sleep. That's it, If I'm one of those people, if I lay in bed too long, it just annoys me. So I go to sleep, I wake up, and I'm done. I'm good. Okay, so we understand the reasons why we have to go to bed. Take that ass to bed. We understand the reasons why, okay? But what are some of the best practices prior to going to bed?
Yeah, so the hour and even 2 before bed can really impact the quality of your sleep. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot that you can do here, and the first thing that I'll discuss is your exposure to light. Mm-hmm. So when we're talking about the circadian rhythm, right, the 24-hour clock that we have, it's based on light. So when it's light outside, it's telling our body, hey, now is the time to be awake. When it's dark outside, that's signaling to our body, okay, it's time to get sleepy, go to bed. And when the light goes down, that's when our body is starting to produce melatonin. Melatonin is what helps us with the onset of sleep, so our sleep timing. It's also a very powerful antioxidant in the body. But so with the evolution of technology, this can mess with our sleep cycles if we're getting a lot of exposure to light when the natural light, when the sun has gone down. So, in the evening, like you're saying, it's very common to be watching TV, to be working on our laptops, to be on our screens, on our phones. And these devices are producing what's called blue light. And this can confuse the brain into thinking that it's still time to be awake, it's still light out. So it will suppress our melatonin production. So ideally, a couple hours before bed, or after the sun goes down, you really want to try to minimize your exposure to light. So keeping the overhead lights dimmed. If you have lamps, or candles, keeping the lights low. Ideally, the hour before bed, trying to be device free. So, trying to put away the TV, the phone, the laptops, and, reading instead, or taking a bath, stretching. Now, I know this is a really hard habit to break. So if you're like, hey, there's no way, Christina, I'm not turning off the TV the hour before bed. Couple things that can help are wearing blue light blocking glasses. So they make ones with like the amber tinted lenses that help filter out the blue light. There's also apps called like f.lux that you can install on your laptop if you have to be working, before you go to sleep at night. But really, the light can make a really big impact, especially if you have a hard time falling asleep. You just want to reduce that light exposure. One study showed that reading on an iPad before bed versus reading like an old school book resulted in 50% less melatonin production. So again, if you can choose like old school books over like the reading devices, that can be helpful. But also just keeping in mind, this is ideally the time to start to slow down the brain and to calm the brain. So even light aside, if you're watching something that's highly stimulating on the TV or scrolling on social media, that can also be really activating for the brain. Ideally choosing more of the calming activities. So having some sort of a wind down routine before bed can really help improve sleep quality, especially how well rested you feel the next day. Using sleep trackers, we can see that recovery times are better when you cut out the blue light before bed. So that means like how well rested you feel when you wake up the next morning.
Now, what's recovery time?
Recovery time is basically like how well rested you feel when you wake up the next morning, like how recovered your body is after that night's sleep. So a lot of the times I'll be meeting with clients and they'll say, I don't get it. I'm getting 8 hours of sleep and I'm still waking up feeling groggy or not feeling that rested. And so that's a clue, okay, the quality of your sleep could probably be improved. And it's like, okay, what are you doing the hour before bed? I'm on my phone scrolling on Instagram, before I fall asleep. And then making that change of getting off the devices can oftentimes, make people feel a lot better. So that's one best practice. Another thing that you're doing that is one of the most key things that you can do is having a consistent sleep schedule. Yeah. So going to bed and waking up at the same time, every night, even on the weekends, as you mentioned, is quite helpful. Another big thing is the temperature of your room in that you're sleeping in. So as I mentioned earlier, your body temperature needs to drop a few degrees in order to get into that deep sleep. And so the ideal temperature is around like 65 degrees, between like 60 and 67, which tends to be a bit cooler than probably most people have their rooms. It feels pretty chilly.
I love that.
Yeah, so, it feels cozy.
My wife doesn't, but I
get into bed,
get
some blankets. So keeping a really cool sleep environment, and also keeping your sleep environment very dark. Again, this comes back to the light. So, if there's any light in your room, considering getting blackout curtains or sleeping with an eye mask. If there's any lights that are flickering from, any devices, You
Yep.
could keep them, you want your sleep environment to be like as pitch black as you can really make it.
Yeah. 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 We have blackout curtains because we're in Manhattan, you know, and there's lights in the alley, there's lights in the street, and it's just like I used to laugh because um, when I first met my wife, and I was upstate in upstate New York. It was dark up there, so she come up and spend the weekend with me, and go to bed at night, turn the lights out, and it was pitch black. And she's like, "Oh my God, I can't even see my hand in front of my face." I was like, "Yeah, isn't it great?" She's like, "I don't know about that," because she lives in Manhattan. I'd come down here, and we were in this was her bedroom back in those days, and we'd come in here, go to bed, and there's a big wall of windows in front of me, right? And turn out the light, and I'd be like, you might as well turn the light back on because all the light from the street, there's nothing I can't see. So it drove us nuts. But now we're both kind of on the same page. So we have, blackout curtains in the room. So now it's pitch black in our room. I'm always scared I'm gonna elbow when I don't see a pow. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to elbow you, but hasn't happened yet. But it's dark in there. Uh, I take my cell phone, I put it in sleep mode,
Mhm.
and I get it as far away from my bed as I can, just enough where if I have to work at night, take a look. Oh, it's that time, and I put it back over, and I'm done with it again. You know, those small things are important. I think, and they well, they're important, but if you're not doing them religiously, consistently, where they can build over time, you don't get the effects of. That's the thing about the body. If the body's always doing what it does consistently, constantly, religiously, day in, day out, it does what it does. So I'm assuming it expects that type of response back from us. You're gonna do this. You gotta give this to me all the time, whenever I can. You gotta be consistent. I know what's going on. Let me know, and then I will respond to it. And I want to say one other thing is that people need to really understand that when you think that the body, when you think that you're not getting what you need, if you're doing it, the body's getting it, even if you don't think it's happening. You know,
Mhm.
I had a scenario when I was dealing with my panic attacks, which I still deal with. Um, and I was in the height of it back in July of 2018. I went up to my daughter's house in Upper Connecticut, and just to hang out with her and my granddaughter for the weekend, just kind of calm myself down, get out of Manhattan, kind of take it easy. And I went up there, but the whole weekend was just, I felt horrible. I couldn't unwind, I couldn't relax, nothing. I was outdoors, outside all the time, nothing, you know. But when I came back to Manhattan, I realized that my body had responded because I wasn't having panic attacks as often.
Mm.
I was able to eat without things getting caught in my throat because of panic attack.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, my body actually got what I wanted it to get while I was in Connecticut, but I didn't think so.
Right.
So it's really important to understand that even if you don't think intellectually that you're not getting it, you're not getting the information, your body is, So you have to expose your body. You have to do it. You have to be consistent. Otherwise, the things that Chris is saying tonight that we need to do to get better rest, get better sleep, if you're not going to do it, or if you're not going to be consistent with it, it's pointless, and that's where it is. I think Rhea has something she's saying. She says, I think I've been conditioned. I've worked third shift for over 15 years, so it's difficult for me. At one point, I conditioned myself at one point so that my bedroom is to be used solely for sleep. I don't even watch TV from my bed anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ideally, if you can, because the brain is highly associative,
Mm-hmm.
so if if you can, ideally reserve your bed for sleep and sex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you're gonna be in bed, even if you wake up in the middle of the night and you're having a hard time falling asleep, try not to stay in the bed longer than 25 minutes. Go out to the living room and read a book until you're feeling sleepy, because you want to keep that strong association with, okay, when I'm in bed, I'm sleeping. And that's where the wind down routine is so helpful too, what you're saying with consistency. When you start to do the same things in the evening, your brain's like, oh, he's doing this again. It's time to wind down. It's time to go to sleep. Your brain starts to, act like clockwork.
Right, right.
Same with the sleep schedule, right? The more consistency you have, the easier your body has to kind of go on autopilot with these things.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. All right, we're gonna leave it right there. It's 8 o'clock. I don't want to keep you from your sleep. Well, it's not. Well, you're on the West Coast, so it's like what, 5 o'clock out there?
5 o'clock.
Wow, like my day's coming to an end, and you're just kind of starting to wind down. I want to thank you so much, for doing this with me, and I think it's been really informative. I think it's been educational, and it's been my pleasure to really have you here. I'm going to follow up with you, so we can kind of jump back on my stuff and
Sure.
get myself together again. I'm going to get with Mary again as well, so that I can just kind of get back on the bandwagon again. But
Yeah, let's catch up. And thank you again so much for having me on your show, David. It's an absolute pleasure, and
Yep.
I so appreciate you bringing me on.
Not a problem. We're going to do it again, and I'm glad you came in. See, I told you it's going to be kind of easy. It's going to be make it fun. But if any of you folks have any questions, you can email me questions, or once the show notes page goes up, if you have any questions, put them in the comments on the show notes page or here on Facebook, and then I will shoot them out to Chris, and we'll try to get answers for you. Okay, if you have any questions there. And don't forget, once I get the show notes page up and going, which will probably be tomorrow, I think tonight's going to kind of call it a night. There's going to be a sleep guide there as well, on the show notes page as well. And there's also going to be a discount if you want to join Parsley. Now, Parsley, they have a branch here in Manhattan that I go to. They also have one in California. They're kind of spotty all over the place, but it doesn't matter because they will do it online as well. All right, they will do it through Zoom. They will do it on the internet. So you don't. If you want to become a Parsley member, you do not have to be in a location, which is what I thought initially, but you don't anymore. Be in a location where they have a center or where they have an office. Sometimes I do it from home, and they, Mary even sent a phlebotomist, I guess, to the studio here. It took my blood right here in the studio. I was like, oh, this is great. I can get my blood taken in the studio now. This is amazing. I like this. So good folks, good people who know what they're doing, and they know how to help people with their health issues. So please, there's a $150 discount. That'll be in the show notes page as well. You have to use the code NIGHT for that, and become a member. You won't regret it. I'll put it that way. You won't regret it. But you have to do the work. There's no getting around that. So whatever may be happening with you, you have to do the work, and you put in the work, you get the stuff. And I put in some of the work. I need to do better my damn self, but they know that, So that's my issue. But okay, practice what you preach, Dave. Okay, I get it. Okay. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Thank you so much, Christina, so much for coming in, and we're gonna talk a little bit later as well.
Cool. Thank you so much, David. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody, so much. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.